The coffee was exactly 175 degrees. Not 174, not 176. Vincent Marchetti took his morning espresso at precisely 175 degrees, with one sugar cube dissolved completely before the cup reached his desk. I'd learned this on my third day working for him, after he'd sent back 2 cups with nothing more than a glance that could freeze blood. That was 8 months ago. 8 months of existing in the peripheral vision of one of New York's most dangerous men, and he still didn't know my eye color. I adjusted the temperature dial on the espresso machine in the small kitchenette adjacent to Vincent's office, watching the numbers climb. The morning sun cut through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Marchetti Industries' top floor, casting long shadows across marble floors that probably cost more than my yearly salary. Everything in this building whispered wealth and power, from the Italian leather sofas in the waiting area to the original Caravaggio hanging in Vincent's private office. My phone buzzed. A text from Vincent's calendar system. Meeting with Caruso, 9:15 a.m. Prepare conference room. Vaughn Caruso. Vincent's best friend since childhood, his consigliere. The man who handled everything Vincent couldn't be seen handling publicly. I'd met him twice in 8 months. Both times brief encounters where he'd actually looked at me, really looked, like I was a person, and not just another piece of office equipment. The espresso machine beeped. I poured carefully, watching the dark liquid fill the small ceramic cup Vincent preferred. 1 sugar cube, dissolved with 3 precise stirs. I carried it through the connecting door to his office, my footsteps silent on the thick carpet. Vincent sat behind his massive desk, dark head bent over documents, his attention absolute. He was handsome in the way dangerous things are handsome, all sharp edges and contained violence. His tailored suit probably cost more than my car, and even sitting still, he radiated the kind of power that made people instinctively step back. I set the espresso on the leather coaster to his right, exactly where he expected it. He didn't look up, didn't acknowledge my presence. I was already turning to leave when his phone rang. "Marchetti," he answered, his voice carrying that slight Italian accent that became more pronounced when he was angry. A pause. "No, I told Santoro we don't do business with the Thorne family. Not now. Not ever." I froze at the doorway. The name sent a chill down my spine, though I couldn't say why. "I don't care what Marcus is offering. The answer is no." Vincent's tone had gone cold, deadly. "Tell him if he contacts us again, it won't be a phone conversation." He hung up, and I quickly slipped through the door, my heart pounding for reasons I didn't understand. Back in my small office, really just a desk outside Vincent's door, I pulled up the files for the Caruso meeting, trying to shake the unease that had settled over me. Marcus Thorne. Why did that name feel like a shadow crossing my grave? I'd been working at Marchetti Industries for 8 months, and I still didn't fully understand what the company did. Officially, it was import-export, with legitimate contracts for Italian luxury goods. But the men who came through these doors, the conversations I wasn't supposed to overhear, the way Vincent's security team carried weapons that definitely weren't legal. I wasn't naive enough to believe this was just about importing leather handbags. My computer chimed. An email from Vincent. Conference room. Now. I grabbed my tablet and headed down the hall to the main conference room, a space that could comfortably seat 20, but was usually used for Vincent's more private meetings. I checked that the blinds were properly positioned. Vincent liked privacy but not complete darkness, and set out water glasses at 2 places. I was adjusting the thermostat when the door opened. "Perfect as always, Miss Cole." I turned to find Vaughn Caruso leaning against the doorframe, watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Where Vincent was all hard edges and cold control, Vaughn had a warmth to him that seemed at odds with his profession. He was nearly as tall as Vincent, with broader shoulders and lighter brown hair that fell across his forehead in a way that suggested he didn't spend hours getting it perfect. But it was his eyes that caught me. Dark brown, almost black, and currently focused entirely on me with an intensity that made my pulse quicken. "Mr. Caruso," I managed, proud that my voice stayed steady. "Mr. Marchetti should be here momentarily." "Vaughn," he corrected, moving into the room. "We've established this before, haven't we? You can call me Vaughn." "That wouldn't be appropriate, Mr. Caruso." His smile was slow, dangerous in a completely different way than Vincent's coldness. "Appropriate. That's an interesting choice of words in this building." Before I could respond, Vincent entered, his presence immediately dominating the space. His eyes flickered between Vaughn and me, something sharp crossing his expression, before it smoothed into his usual impassive mask. "Vivian, that will be all," he said. I nodded, gathering my tablet. As I passed Vaughn, he stepped aside, and I could have sworn his hand almost touched the small of my back. Almost, but not quite. The ghost of that touch followed me out of the room. Back at my desk, I tried to focus on work, but my mind kept drifting to the way Vaughn had looked at me, like I was visible, like I mattered. The meeting lasted 40 minutes. When the door opened, Vaughn emerged first, Vincent close behind. They were deep in conversation, speaking Italian too rapid for me to follow with my limited understanding. But Vaughn's eyes found mine as he passed, and he smiled. A real smile that transformed his entire face. "Have a good day, Miss Cole," he said. "You too, Mr. Caruso." After he left, Vincent stood at my desk, his dark gaze fixed on me with an intensity I'd never experienced from him before. I looked up, meeting his eyes for perhaps the first time since I'd started working here. They were gray, storm gray, like clouds before lightning strikes. "Vivian," he said, my name sounding strange in his accented English. "How long have you worked here?" 8 months, Mr. Marchetti. 8 months. He repeated it as if testing the words. "And in that time, has anyone from outside this company contacted you? Asked questions about me, about the business?" The question sent ice through my veins. "No, sir. If anyone does, anyone at all, you tell me immediately. Understand?" "Yes, sir." He studied me for a moment longer, something working behind his eyes that I couldn't read. Then he turned and walked back into his office, closing the door with a soft click that somehow sounded more ominous than a slam. I sat frozen at my desk, my hands trembling slightly. Why would someone contact me? I was nobody, just a secretary who made coffee at the right temperature and scheduled meetings and remained invisible. Except I hadn't been invisible to Vaughn. And now, for the first time in 8 months, I wasn't invisible to Vincent either. That should have made me feel seen, acknowledged, finally noticed after months of being treated like furniture. Instead, it made me feel exposed, like I'd suddenly stepped into a spotlight I'd never asked for and definitely didn't want. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "It was nice to properly meet you today. VC." I stared at the message, my heart doing something complicated in my chest. Vaughn Caruso had gotten my number, had taken the time to text me, was interested enough to reach out. I should delete it, should pretend I never saw it, should maintain the professional distance I'd carefully constructed since starting this job. Instead, I saved the number and typed back, "You too." It was the smallest rebellion, the tiniest crack in the invisible armor I'd worn for 8 months. But as I sent the message, I had the strangest feeling that I'd just set something in motion that I wouldn't be able to stop. That somewhere, something dangerous was waking up, and I was standing directly in its path. The text from Vaughn started small. "A good morning here. I hope you're having a good day there." Nothing inappropriate, nothing that crossed any obvious professional lines. But they accumulated like snow, each message another layer that was slowly changing the landscape of my carefully controlled world. Vincent noticed. Of course he noticed. It started with small things. He began asking me to stay late, finding tasks that needed completion after everyone else had gone home. He'd emerge from his office to find me at my desk, and something would flicker across his face. Surprise, maybe, that I was still there. Or perhaps annoyance that his invisible secretary had suddenly become impossible to ignore. "You work too much," he said one evening, nearly a week after Vaughn's first text. It was past 8, and the office was empty except for security. I looked up from my computer, startled by both his presence and his observation. "I could say the same about you, Mr. Marchetti." The corner of his mouth twitched, not quite a smile, but close. "Yes, but I own the company. You're just—" He stopped, something crossing his expression. "Just the secretary?" I finished for him, an edge creeping into my voice I didn't usually allow. "I was going to say you're too young to have no life outside these walls." He moved closer to my desk, and I caught the scent of his cologne. Something expensive and woody. "How old are you, Vivian?" 26. 26. He repeated it thoughtfully. "And you spend your evenings making coffee at the correct temperature and organizing my calendar. That's no life for a woman your age." "It's the life I choose, Mr. Marchetti." "Is it?" His gray eyes held mine. "Or is it the life you're hiding in?" The observation was too close, too accurate. I looked away first. I should finish these reports. He was silent for a long moment. Then, "Vaughn asked about you today." My fingers froze on the keyboard. "Oh." "He wanted to know how long you'd worked here, what your background was, if you were seeing anyone." Vincent's voice had gone cold. I told him it was none of his business. "With respect, Mr. Marchetti, isn't it my business?" The words escaped before I could stop them. His jaw tightened. "Not when it comes to Vaughn Caruso." "Why not?" I challenged, something in me refusing to back down. Maybe it was the late hour, or the fact that I was tired of being invisible one moment and controlled the next. "He's your friend, your business partner. What's wrong with him asking about me?" "Everything." The word was final, absolute. Vincent leaned against my desk, his presence overwhelming in the quiet office. "Vaughn is a good man, Vivian. Better than most in our world. But his world is still dangerous, and you—" He stopped, his hand moving as if to touch my face before he pulled it back. "You should stay away from both of us." "Then why am I here?" The question burst from me. "Why did you hire me, Mr. Marchetti? I've been working for you for 8 months, and I'm starting to think it wasn't because of my excellent secretarial skills." Something shifted in his expression. For just a moment, I saw past the cold exterior to something raw underneath. "You're right. It wasn't." Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his entire demeanor changed. "Go home, Vivian. Now. I'll have Marco drive you." Marco was his head of security, a man built like a concrete wall who rarely spoke. "I have my own car." "Marco will drive you," Vincent repeated, his voice leaving no room for argument. "And from now on, you don't go anywhere alone. Understand?" Fear spiked through me. "What's happening?" "Nothing you need to worry about. Just a precaution." But the way his hand had moved to the weapon I knew he kept in his desk drawer told me it was more than a precaution. Marco appeared within minutes, as if he'd been waiting for the call. As he escorted me to the elevator, I glanced back to see Vincent on his phone, speaking rapid Italian, his face carved from granite. The ride home was silent. Marco drove a black SUV with tinted windows, taking turns I knew weren't the direct route to my apartment. He was checking for tails, I realized, making sure no one followed us. "Mr. Marchetti is protective," Marco said suddenly, his accent thick. "Sometimes too protective," But he has good reasons. What reasons? He glanced at me in the rearview mirror. That's not my story to tell. But Miss Cole, you should know. You were never invisible to him. He knew your eye color on your first day. The words stayed with me long after Marco had checked my apartment, positioned a security guard outside my building, and left. I stood at my window, looking down at the street where a dark sedan now sat, a man I didn't know watching my door. My phone buzzed. Vaughn. Heard Vincent has you under protection. Everything okay? I stared at the message. How did he know? I'm fine. Just precautions, apparently. His response came quickly. Can I call you? My thumb hovered over the keys. I should say no. Should maintain distance. Should follow Vincent's implicit warning to stay away from Vaughn. I called him instead. Vivian. His voice was warm, concerned. Tell me what happened. I don't know what happened. Vincent just suddenly insisted I have security. Won't tell me why. Vaughn was quiet for a moment. He's protecting you from Marcus Thorne. The name again. That shadow across my grave. Who is Marcus Thorne? My uncle. The admission was heavy. And the reason I understand exactly why Vincent hired you, why he's kept you close, and why he'll never let you go now that Thorne knows you exist. My legs went weak. I sank onto my couch. I don't understand. Marcus Thorne runs the Irish Syndicate in New York. He's Vincent's oldest enemy, and he's been looking for a way to hurt Vincent for years. Vaughn's voice was gentle, but firm. 3 years ago, there was an incident. A woman Marcus loved was killed in crossfire between our families. Since then, he's made it his mission to find anyone Vincent cares about and destroy them. But Vincent doesn't care about me, I protested. I'm just his secretary. Are you? Vaughn asked. Because from where I'm standing, Vincent Marchetti just put his best security on a woman he supposedly doesn't notice. That doesn't happen by accident, Vivian. I thought about Vincent's question tonight. How old are you? Like he was just now seeing me as a person. Like 8 months of invisibility had suddenly shattered. Why did he hire me? I whispered. Vaughn sighed. That's his story to tell. But Vivian, you need to understand. You're not safe anymore. Thorne knows about you now. He'll use you to get to Vincent, or he'll eliminate you just to cause Vincent pain. Either way, you're in danger. Then I'll quit. I'll leave the city. And go where? Vaughn's voice was sad. Thorne has connections everywhere. And even if you could hide, Vincent would find you. He's not going to let you walk away now. The cage was forming around me. I could feel the bars sliding into place, locking me into a world I'd never chosen. There has to be a way out, I said, my voice breaking. There is. Vaughn's tone changed, became something warmer. But it's not running. It's accepting protection. And Vivian, I'd like to offer mine too. You barely know me. I know enough. I know you're intelligent, observant, and brave enough to stand up to Vincent Marchetti when most people would cower. I know you take your coffee with cream and sugar, that you bite your lip when you're concentrating, and that you have the most expressive hazel eyes I've ever seen. He paused. And I know that if Vincent has his way, you'll spend the rest of your life in a gilded cage, protected, but never free. I'd like to offer you something different. What? A choice. Vincent will protect you through control. I'll protect you through partnership. He'll make decisions for you. I'll make decisions with you. His voice softened. And unlike Vincent, I actually see you, Vivian. I have from the moment we met. My heart was racing. Vaughn, this is complicated, dangerous, completely insane. He laughed softly. Yeah, I know. Welcome to my world, but I'm serious, Vivian. If you want someone who'll treat you like an equal rather than a possession, I'm here. After we hung up, I sat in the darkness of my apartment processing everything. Vincent had hired me not for my skills, but to protect me from a threat I hadn't known existed. A threat connected to Vaughn's family. And now both men were offering me protection, but in completely different ways. Vincent's protection was a cage. Beautiful, secure, but still a cage. Vaughn's was a partnership. Dangerous, uncertain, but free. My phone lit up with another message, this time from Vincent. Sleep well. Marco will be outside all night. You're safe. But I didn't feel safe. I felt like a chess piece being moved across a board I couldn't see, by players whose rules I didn't understand. I responded, "Why did you really hire me, Mr. Marchetti?" The typing indicator appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally. Because 8 months ago, Marcus Thorne sent men to kill you, and I stopped them. You were never meant to be invisible, Vivian. You were meant to be safe. I stared at the message, my world tilting. 8 months ago, I'd been working at a coffee shop, saving money to go back to school. I'd applied to Marchetti Industries on a whim, never expecting to get hired. The interview had been brief. Just Vincent, asking me strange questions that had nothing to do with secretarial work. Where was I from? Did I have family? Who knew where I lived? I'd thought he was thorough, careful about who he hired. He'd been checking if I had anyone who would come looking for me if I disappeared. He'd saved my life, then hidden me in plain sight. Made me invisible to protect me. And now, because Vaughn had seen me, because Vincent had started seeing me, I was visible again, and vulnerable. The cage door was closing. The only question was which cage I'd choose. Vincent's cold protection, or Vaughn's warm partnership. Or if I'd try to run and discover there was no escape at all. I didn't sleep. How could I, knowing that 8 months ago, men had been sent to kill me, and I'd never known? That my entire life since then had been a carefully constructed lie, a protection I'd never asked for. By morning, I'd made a decision. I dressed in my most professional suit, navy blue, conservative, armor against whatever was coming, and took the subway to work despite Marco's protest. I needed this small act of defiance, this reminder that I still had some control over my life. Vincent was waiting in my office when I arrived. He stood by the window, backlit by the morning sun, his suit perfectly tailored, his posture rigid. But when he turned to face me, I saw shadows under his gray eyes that suggested he'd slept as poorly as I had. "We need to talk," he said. "Yes, we do." I set my bag down with deliberate care. "In your office. Now." His eyebrows rose fractionally, surprise at my tone, but he gestured for me to precede him. Once inside his office, with the door closed and the world locked out, I turned to face him. "Tell me everything," I demanded. "Not the sanitized version, not the version you think I can handle. Everything." Vincent moved to the bar cart in the corner, pouring 2 glasses of whiskey despite the early hour. He handed me one, and I took it, needing something to do with my hands. 8 months ago, he began, settling into the chair across from mine rather than behind his desk. A deliberate choice to minimize the power dynamic, I realized. One of my informants told me that Marcus Thorne had put a contract out. The target was a young woman working at a coffee shop in Brooklyn. No family, no connections, just an ordinary girl he'd decided to use as a test. "A test?" My voice came out strangled. "Marcus has been trying to prove he can strike at me without consequence. He picks random targets associated with me, even tangentially, and eliminates them to demonstrate my inability to protect everyone." Vincent's jaw tightened. "You weren't associated with me. You'd never even heard my name. But your coffee shop was in a building I owned." That was enough for him. The whiskey burned, going down. "So you saved me." I sent men to intercept his. They succeeded, but Marcus realized someone had interfered. The contract remained open. He leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "I had two choices: let you die, or bring you into my world where I could protect you. You could have warned me. Let me choose." "Could I?" His gray eyes held mine. "What would you have done, Vivian? A stranger tells you a crime lord wants you dead for no reason. You'd have thought I was insane. Or worse, you'd have gone to the police, and they'd have done nothing because they can't protect you from Marcus Thorne. No one can, except me. He wasn't wrong, and I hated that he wasn't wrong. So you hired me, made me your secretary, kept me close where you could watch me. The pieces were falling into place, and you made me invisible. If no one noticed me, no one would know I mattered to you." "Exactly." Something like approval flickered in his expression. "You were safest when you were nobody. Just another employee, beneath notice. It worked for 8 months. Until Vaughn noticed me." Vincent's expression darkened. "Yes. Why does that matter? He's your best friend." "Because Vaughn is Marcus's nephew." Vincent stood, pacing to the window. His mother married into the Thorne family. Vaughn grew up in that world before he had the strength to leave it. He came to me at 18, wanting to escape his uncle's influence. I gave him that escape, brought him into my organization. But Marcus never forgave the betrayal. My mind reeled. Vaughn was Marcus Thorne's nephew.
The man offering me partnership was related to the man trying to kill me. "Does Vaughn know?" I asked. "About why you hired me?" "No. I told him you were just another employee." Vincent turned to face me. "But he's perceptive, and when he started showing interest in you, Marcus noticed. My informants tell me Thorne has been watching Vaughn for weeks, trying to understand why his nephew is suddenly texting a secretary, calling her, showing up at the office more frequently. So by noticing me, Vaughn made me visible to Marcus." "Yes." I set down my whiskey glass with trembling hands. "Then I need to leave. Quit my job. Leave the city. You think I haven't considered that?" Vincent's voice was sharp. "You think I haven't spent the last week trying to find a way to get you out of this?" He crossed to me, kneeling so we were eye level. "There is no way out, Vivian. Marcus knows you exist now. If you run, he'll find you. If you hide, he'll dig you out. The only way you survive is under my protection. Your protection is a cage. It's life." His hand came up, cupping my face with unexpected gentleness. A cage is better than a grave. I wanted to pull away from his touch, but something in his eyes held me frozen. For the first time since I'd met him, Vincent Marchetti looked vulnerable. "Why do you care?" I whispered. "I'm nobody. Just a random girl who worked in your building." His thumb traced my cheekbone. "You were nobody. Past tense. But 8 months of watching you, of seeing how you handle pressure, how you observe everything, how you never complain or demand attention." He stopped, his jaw working. "You became someone, and I don't let people who are mine get hurt. I'm not yours. Aren't you?" His voice dropped to something almost tender. "Who pays your salary? Who ensures your safety? Who knows you take your coffee with cream and sugar, that you bite your lower lip when you concentrate, that you're left-handed, but learn to use a mouse with your right hand to accommodate the desk setup?" I stared at him. "You said you didn't notice me." I lied. His confession was quiet. "I noticed everything, Vivian. Every single thing. I had to keep you safe. But I also wanted to. Somewhere in the last 8 months, keeping you invisible to others became about keeping you visible only to me." The admission hung between us,
heavy with implications I wasn't ready to examine. "Vincent, I know what Vaughn offered you," he interrupted. "Partnership, choice, freedom. He's good at making those promises. He made similar ones when he left his uncle, and I helped him keep them." His hand dropped from my face. "But Vaughn can't protect you from Marcus. Only I can. Because you're more powerful? Because I'm willing to do what Vaughn won't. I'll kill for you, Vivian. Without hesitation, without remorse. Vaughn still has a conscience.
That makes him vulnerable." I stood, needing distance to think. This is insane. All of it. You're asking me to accept that my life isn't mine anymore. That I have to choose between being your protected possession or Vaughn's protected partner, but I can't just be free. Freedom is an illusion. Vincent rose as well. Everyone serves someone, answers to someone, lives within constraints set by others. The only difference is whether you acknowledge it or not.
That's a cynical view. That's a realistic view. He moved to his desk, pulling out a folder. "This is Marcus Thorne's file. Everything we know about him, his operations, his habits. Read it. Understand what you're dealing with. Then tell me if you still think you can negotiate your way out of this." I took the folder with numb fingers. Inside were photographs, crime scenes, bodies, families destroyed, and at the center of it all, a man with cold blue eyes and silver hair. Marcus Thorne, looking more like a businessman than a monster. "He killed Vaughn's father," Vincent said quietly. "His own brother-in-law, because he'd opposed a business decision. Vaughn was 16. He watched it happen. Couldn't do anything to stop it. That's when he understood what his uncle really was." I looked up sharply. "Does Vaughn know you're telling me this?" "No. And he'd probably be furious if he did. Vaughn likes to pretend he's left that world behind, that he's better than the rest of us." Vincent's expression was unreadable. "But he's not. He kills when he has to. He just feels guilty about it afterward, and somehow that makes him think he's different." "He is different," I said. "He sees me as a person, not a problem to be managed." "I see you as both." Vincent's honesty was brutal. "You're a person I've come to care about, and you're a problem that requires careful management. Those things aren't mutually exclusive, Vivian. In my world, caring about someone means controlling every variable that could hurt them. That's not love. That's obsession." Who said anything about love? But something flickered in his eyes that contradicted his words. "This is about protection. About keeping you alive. If you want poetry and romance, Vaughn is your man. If you want to survive, I'm yours." My phone buzzed. A text from Vaughn. "Lunch? We need to talk." Vincent saw my expression. "He's going to ask you to choose him. He's going to promise you freedom and partnership, and everything I can't give you." He moved closer. "But ask yourself this, Vivian. When Marcus comes for you, and he will come for you, who do you trust to keep you alive? The man who feels guilty about violence, or the man who embraces it? I don't want either of you embracing violence on my behalf. Then you'll die." The blunt statement hit like a physical blow. That's the reality. Marcus Thorne doesn't negotiate. He doesn't show mercy. He'll use you to hurt me, to hurt Vaughn, and then he'll discard you. The only question is whether you'll let us protect you, or whether your pride will kill you. I closed the folder, unable to look at the photographs anymore. "What if I choose Vaughn?" Vincent went very still. "Then I'll respect your choice and still protect you. But Vivian, understand? If you choose him, you're choosing a man torn between two worlds. He loves his mother, who's still married to Marcus's brother. He has cousins in the Thorne organization. Every time he moves against his uncle, he's moving against his family. And you have no such conflicts? My family is dead. I have no one to betray except myself. He said it matter-of-factly, but I heard the old pain underneath. That makes me dangerous, yes, but it also makes me uncomplicated. I can protect you without being torn between loyalties. I met his eyes. What do you want from me, Vincent? Really? He was quiet for a long moment. I want you safe. I want you alive. And yes, I want you to choose me. Not because you have to, but because you want to. Because you understand that what I'm offering, protection, security, a place in my world, is worth the cost of your freedom. And what is that cost? Complete trust. Complete obedience when it comes to your safety. Complete acceptance that I know what's best for protecting you. He stepped closer. I'm not asking you to stop being yourself, Vivian. I'm asking you to let me be what I am. Someone who keeps you alive. By making decisions for me. By making the difficult decisions so you don't have to live with the guilt of them. His hand found mine. Let me carry that weight. Let me be the monster so you can stay human. It was the most honest thing he'd ever said to me. And somehow, that honesty was more terrifying than any threat could have been. Because part of me wanted to accept his offer. Part of me was tired of being afraid, tired of looking over my shoulder, tired of pretending I could navigate this dangerous world on my own. But another part of me looked at Vaughn's text and remembered what it felt like to be seen as an equal, to have someone offer partnership instead of protection. I need time, I said finally. Time is a luxury we don't have. Marcus knows about you now. He's planning something. My sources confirm it. You need to choose, Vivian, today. My phone buzzed again. Vaughn, please, just lunch. Let me give you my side of this. I looked between the phone and Vincent, between two impossible choices. Let me have lunch with him, I said. Let me hear what he has to say. Then I'll decide. Vincent's jaw tightened, but he nodded slowly. Marco will drive you. He'll wait outside. And Vivian. His hand tightened on mine. Whatever Vaughn promises you, remember this. I've been protecting you for 8 months. He's known you for less than 2 weeks. Who do you really think knows better how to keep you alive? It was a fair question. I just wished I knew the answer. The restaurant Vaughn chose was small, intimate, tucked away on a quiet street in Greenwich Village. Nothing like the places Vincent frequented. No private rooms, no security sweeping the area first. Just a simple Italian bistro with checkered tablecloths and the smell of garlic and basil in the air. Marco waited in the SUV outside, his presence a constant reminder that even here, I wasn't free. Vaughn stood when I entered, and the smile that lit his face was genuine, warm. He ditched his usual suit for jeans and a dark sweater, looking more approachable, less like the consigliere of a criminal empire. You came? He said, pulling out my chair. Did you think I wouldn't? With Vincent, you never know. He settled across from me, his dark eyes searching my face. He told you everything, didn't he? About Marcus, about why he hired you, about me. Most of it, I think, though I'm starting to realize that with Vincent, there's always more beneath the surface. Vaughn nodded slowly. That's Vincent. Layers upon layers of secrets and control. It's what makes him so effective and so impossible to truly know. He reached across the table, his hand stopping just short of mine. But I'm not like that, Vivian. What you see is what you get with me. You're Marcus Thorne's nephew. That seems like a pretty significant thing to not mention when you were texting me about coffee preferences. His expression tightened with old pain. I'm not my uncle. I haven't been since I was 18 years old, and I watched him put a bullet in my father's head for disagreeing with him about a shipment route. His voice dropped. I'd give anything to erase that blood connection. But I can't. All I can do is be better than he is. Vincent says you're torn between two worlds, that you can't fully move against Marcus because of your family. My mother, Vaughn corrected. She's still married to my uncle's brother, still part of that world. If I go to war with Marcus, she'll be caught in the crossfire. So yes, I'm limited in how directly I can move against him. He finally took my hand, his touch warm and solid. But that doesn't mean I can't protect you. It just means I'll do it differently than Vincent. How? By giving you the tools to protect yourself. By treating you as a partner, not a possession. By being honest with you about the dangers and letting you make informed decisions. His thumb traced circles on my palm. Vincent will wrap you in cotton and lock you in a gilded cage. He'll make every decision for you, convinced he knows best. And maybe he does. He's kept you alive for 8 months. But Vivian, is that really living? The question hit home. I'd spent 8 months invisible, isolated, existing in a carefully controlled bubble. Safe, yes. But alive? I wasn't sure. Vincent says you can't protect me the way he can. That your conscience makes you weak. Vaughn's laugh was bitter. Of course he does. Vincent sees conscience as a liability because his died a long time ago. But Vivian, do you really want to be protected by someone who feels nothing? Someone who'll kill without hesitation, without remorse, without consideration of whether there might be another way? He says the only way to survive Marcus is to be willing to do anything. He's not wrong about that. Vaughn's admission surprised me. Marcus is a monster. Stopping him will require getting our hands dirty. The difference is, I'll feel guilty about it. I'll question whether we've crossed too many lines. And yes, maybe that makes me weaker than Vincent. But it also makes me human. Our food arrived. Pasta neither of us had ordered, as if the owner knew Vaughn's preferences. He'd been here before, I realized. This was his place, his sanctuary away from Vincent's world of control and power. Tell me about your mother, I said, wanting to understand the complication that made him hesitate. Vaughn's expression softened. She's a good woman who made a bad choice. She fell in love with my father, not knowing what the Thorne family really was. By the time she understood, I'd already been born, and she was trapped. He took a bite of pasta, chewing thoughtfully. After my father died, she withdrew. She lives in Connecticut now, in a house Marcus bought her. She pretends not to know what he does, pretends the money is clean. It's easier for her that way. And you still see her? Once a month. I have dinner with her, and she asks me about work, and I lie about what I do. We maintain the fiction that we're a normal family. His smile was sad. She knows about Vincent, knows I work for him. She thinks it's legitimate business. I let her believe it because the truth would destroy her. I thought about my own parents, killed in a car accident when I was 19. How different my life might have been if they'd lived, if I'd had someone to go home to, someone who cared enough to ask questions. If you had to choose between protecting me and protecting your mother, I asked quietly, what would you do? Vaughn met my eyes without hesitation. I'd find a way to protect both of you, and if that wasn't possible, I'd choose you. Why? You barely know me. Because my mother made her choice. She chose to stay in that world, to accept Marcus's money, to pretend everything is fine. But you... He squeezed my hand. You never chose this. You were dragged into it through no fault of your own, and unlike my mother, you're still fighting. You're still trying to find a way to live on your own terms. That's worth protecting. It was everything I'd wanted to hear. Partnership, respect, recognition of my agency. But Vincent's words echoed in my mind. When Marcus comes for you, who do you trust to keep you alive? Vaughn, what if Vincent is right? What if the only way to survive this is to surrender my freedom to someone stronger? Then you've already decided, he said gently. Because that's what Vincent offers. Strength through surrender. And maybe that works for some people. Maybe that's even what you need right now. He released my hand, sitting back. But Vivian, don't confuse control with love. Don't mistake a cage for a home, even if it's gilded and comfortable. Is that what you're offering me? Love? His smile was slow, genuine. I'm offering you the possibility of it. I'm offering you time to know me, to choose me not because you're afraid, but because you want to. I'm offering you a partnership where we face the danger together instead of you cowering behind me while I handle everything. Vincent would say that's reckless, that I'd be in more danger if I was involved. Vincent would say that because it threatens his control. Vaughn leaned forward again. But here's what Vincent won't tell you. Keeping you isolated, keeping you dependent on him for everything, that creates a different kind of danger. Because what happens if something happens to Vincent? If Marcus manages to eliminate him? You'll be completely helpless, with no skills, no knowledge, no ability to protect yourself. I hadn't considered that. In all of Vincent's careful planning, was there a contingency for his own mortality? He's thought of that, I said, but it sounded weak even to me. Has he? Or has he just assumed he's invincible? Vaughn's expression was serious. I love Vincent like a brother. He saved me when I needed saving, gave me purpose when I had none. But his weakness is that he believes he can control everything, and when you believe that, you stop planning for failure. My phone buzzed. A text from Vincent. Time's up. Marco will bring you back. I showed Vaughn the message. He grimaced. Of course. Even now, he's controlling when our conversation ends. He signaled for the check. So what's it going to be, Vivian? His cage or my partnership? What if I choose neither? What if I try to leave, start over somewhere else? Then we'd both follow you. Vincent to protect you, me to convince you to come back. He paid cash, not giving me time to argue. There's no escaping this, Vivian. The only question is how you want to navigate it. As we walked to the door, Vaughn caught my arm gently. One more thing. Whatever you decide, know this, I see you. Not as a problem to solve or an asset to protect, but as a person, as Vivian. And if you choose Vincent, I'll respect that. But I'll also mourn what we could have been. Marco was waiting, impassive as always. As I moved toward the SUV, Vaughn called out, Vivian? I turned back. He's going to offer you something tonight. Something designed to make you choose him. Before you accept, ask yourself if it's what you really want, or just what fear makes you accept. The drive back to Marchetti Industries was silent. Marco didn't ask about lunch, didn't comment on my obvious distress. He simply drove, a soldier following orders. Vincent was waiting in his office, but he wasn't alone. A woman sat in one of the chairs facing his desk, elegant, 50s, with silver-streaked dark hair and knowing eyes. She stood when I entered, her gaze assessing me with an intensity that rivaled Vincent's. Vivian, Vincent said, his voice formal. This is my aunt, Isabella Marchetti. She's flown in from Milan to meet you. Isabella crossed to me, taking both my hands in hers. So you are the girl who has captured my nephew's attention. Her accent was thicker than Vincent's, musical. He speaks of you often, though he pretends he does not. I glanced at Vincent, who had the grace to look slightly uncomfortable. Zia, you're embarrassing her, he said. Good. She should know what she means to you before she makes her choice. Isabella squeezed my hands. Vincent tells me you are deciding between him and young Vaughn. Both good men, though very different. Zia. Vincent's tone held a warning. Hush. I am allowed to speak. She guided me to a chair, sitting beside me instead of across the desk like a supplicant. Vivian, I knew Vincent's parents. I watched him grow from a boy who laughed easily into a man who forgot how to smile. This world does that. It hardens you, makes you cold, makes you forget there is more to life than survival and power. What are you saying? I asked. I am saying that Vincent needs you as much as you need his protection. Perhaps more. She glanced at her nephew. He has been alone for so long. Let someone in, someone he could not control, someone who made him feel instead of simply calculate. You are that person, Vivian, and he is terrified of losing you. Vincent stood abruptly. That's enough. Is it? Isabella's gaze was sharp. Or is it time someone told her the truth, that you have been half in love with her since the moment you saw her, that you made her invisible to protect not just her life, but your own heart? The admission hung in the air. Vincent's jaw was tight, his hands clenched into fists. But he didn't deny it. He will not say the words. Isabella continued softly. He is too proud, too afraid, but I will say them for him. My nephew loves you, Vivian, and that love terrifies him more than any enemy ever could. I looked at Vincent, this powerful man who suddenly seemed vulnerable, exposed. He met my gaze, and in his gray eyes I saw the truth of Isabella's words. I need time, I whispered. Then you shall have it, Isabella said. But not here, surrounded by his world and his control. You will come with me tonight. Stay at my hotel. Tomorrow, with a clear head and a rested heart, you will decide. Vincent looked like he wanted to argue, but Isabella fixed him with a look that apparently even the powerful Vincent Marchetti couldn't resist. One night, he said finally, and Marco goes with you. Agreed. Isabella stood, offering me her hand. Come, Cara. Let us leave the boys to their worrying. We have much to discuss. As I left with Isabella, I glanced back to see Vincent standing at his window, his silhouette dark against the city lights. He looked alone, isolated. And for the first time since I'd met him, I wondered if his cage imprisoned him as much as it would imprison me. The question was whether I was willing to be his cellmate, or if I'd choose Vaughn's uncertain freedom instead. Isabella's hotel suite was at the Carlyle, all old-world elegance and understated luxury. Marco positioned himself outside the door, a silent sentinel, while Isabella poured us both wine from a bottle that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Sit, she commanded gently, gesturing to the plush sofa. We will talk as women, not as pieces in the men's chess game. I accepted the wine gratefully, sinking into cushions that felt like clouds. How much do you know about what's happening? Everything. Vincent tells me everything because I am the only person he trusts completely. She settled beside me, tucking her legs beneath her in a gesture that made her seem younger. I know about Marcus Thorne. I know about the contract on your life. I know that my nephew has been protecting you while pretending you did not exist. And I know that Vaughn Caruso has complicated everything by actually seeing you. Vincent is angry about that. Vincent is terrified about that, Isabella corrected. There is a difference. Anger he can use, channel into action. Terror makes him irrational, desperate. And a desperate Vincent is a dangerous Vincent, even to those he loves. I took a long sip of wine. He doesn't love me. He barely knows me. Isabella's laugh was knowing. Cara, you have been in his orbit for 8 months. He has watched you every single day. How you take your coffee, what makes you smile, when you are tired or stressed or sad. He knows the rhythm of your breathing when you concentrate. He knows you hum softly when you think no one is listening. He knows everything about you, and knowing you, he fell in love. That's not love. That's obsession. In my nephew's world, they are the same thing. She set down her wine glass. Vincent's parents died when he was 22. Car accident, though the family always suspected Marcus Thorne orchestrated it. Vincent inherited everything: the business, the responsibilities, the enemies. He has spent 14 years building walls around his heart because everyone he has ever loved has been taken from him. The picture she painted made my chest ache. So he keeps people at a distance. Until you, he brought close. You, he watches every day. You, he protects with everything he has. Isabella's eyes were gentle. That is love, Kara. Imperfect, controlling, possessive love, but love nonetheless. What about Vaughn? Vincent says he can't protect me the way he can. This is true. Vaughn is torn between his family and his loyalty to Vincent. But Vaughn offers you something Vincent cannot: partnership, freedom to choose, respect for your agency. She paused. The question is, what do you value more? Safety or autonomy? Before I could answer, my phone rang. Unknown number. I glanced at Isabella, who nodded for me to answer. Vivian Cole, I said carefully. Miss Cole. The voice was smooth, cultured, with a faint Irish accent. We haven't met, but I feel I know you quite well. My name is Marcus Thorne. Ice flooded my veins. Isabella's expression sharpened, and she immediately pulled out her own phone, texting rapidly. How did you get this number? I asked, fighting to keep my voice steady. I have access to many things, Miss Cole: phone numbers, addresses, security schedules. His tone was almost friendly. I know you're at the Carlisle right now with Isabella Marchetti, Suite 1407. I know Marco is outside your door, and I know Vincent is likely receiving a panicked text from his aunt as we speak. I looked at Isabella, whose face had gone pale as she spoke urgently into her phone in rapid Italian. What do you want? I asked Marcus. To give you a choice that neither Vincent nor my nephew will offer you. Leave, tonight. I'll provide safe passage out of the city, a new identity, enough money to start over anywhere you'd like. All you have to do is walk away from both of them. Why would you do that? His laugh was cold. Because watching Vincent Marchetti suffer is worth more to me than your death. He's spent 8 months protecting you, isolating you, falling in love with you. Imagine his pain when you simply disappear, when he has to wonder every day if you're alive, if you're safe, if you ever think of him. That's a better revenge than any bullet. And if I refuse? Then the game continues. You choose Vincent or Vaughn, and I find increasingly creative ways to hurt everyone involved. Your choice, Miss Cole: freedom or war. The line went dead. I sat frozen, the phone still pressed to my ear. Isabella took it gently from my hand, setting it aside before pulling me into an embrace. Breathe, Kara. Just breathe. The door burst open. Vincent stormed in, Marco right behind him, both men with weapons drawn. Vincent's eyes found mine immediately, scanning me for injury with desperate intensity. What did he say? Vincent demanded. He offered me a way out, safe passage, new identity, money to start over. I met his gaze. He wants me to disappear so you'll suffer wondering what happened to me. Something raw crossed Vincent's face. You're not going anywhere. It wasn't a question, Vincent. It was information. I stood, needing to meet him on equal ground, but his call made something clear. I'm not a person to any of you. Not to Marcus, who sees me as a weapon against you. Not to you, who sees me as something to protect and control. Not even to Vaughn, who sees me as a cause to champion. That's not true, Vincent started, but I cut him off. Isn't it? When was the last time any of you asked what I want? Not what would keep me safest, not what would hurt Marcus most, not what would prove a point. What do I want? What are my dreams beyond surviving the next threat? Silence fell. Vincent stared at me, something like shame crossing his features. "What do you want, Vivian?" Isabella asked softly. "I want to finish my degree. I want to write. I want to travel and see things beyond conference rooms and security checkpoints. I want a life that's mine, not one built around avoiding death or serving someone else's agenda." I looked at Vincent. "Can you give me that? Can you let me be more than just the woman you protect?" Vincent's jaw worked. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then quietly, "I don't know." The honesty surprised me more than a lie would have. "At least you're being truthful." I moved to the window, looking down at the city lights. Marcus is right about one thing. Disappearing would solve a lot of problems. For all of us. "No." Vincent's voice was fierce. He crossed to me, spinning me around to face him. "Don't even think about it. Don't you dare think about leaving." "Why not? What's keeping me here besides fear?" His hands framed my face, his gray eyes blazing with emotion I'd never seen from him before. "Because I need you. Because for 8 months, you've been the only real thing in my life. Because the thought of you out there somewhere, alone, unreachable." His voice cracked. "It would destroy me, Vivian. And I know that makes me selfish. I know I'm asking you to sacrifice your freedom for my peace of mind, but I can't pretend I'm noble enough to let you go. Even if staying kills me, I won't let it kill you. I'll kill Marcus first. I'll kill anyone who threatens you. I'll burn this city down before I let harm come to you." "And that's supposed to reassure me? That you'll start a war to keep me?" "If that's what it takes." His thumb stroked my cheeks. "I know I'm a monster, Vivian. I know I'm possessive and controlling and everything you should run from, but I'm your monster, and I will protect you with everything I am." A knock at the door made us both turn. Marco opened it to reveal Vaughn, his expression dark with barely controlled anger. "Did Marcus call her?" he demanded, pushing past Marco. "Yes," Isabella answered. "He offered her a way out." Vaughn's eyes found mine. "Are you taking it?" "I don't know." He crossed to me, pulling me away from Vincent's grasp and into his own. "Then let me make this easier. Choose me, Vivian. Not because I can protect you better than Vincent, I probably can't. Not because I offer you more freedom, though I do. Choose me because I'll help you reclaim your life instead of building a new one around my needs." "She's not choosing you," Vincent growled. "That's not your decision," Vaughn shot back. "It's hers. Or have you forgotten that she's a person, not a possession?" They faced off like wolves fighting over territory, and I realized with sudden clarity that I'd become exactly what Marcus wanted me to be. A wedge between them, destroying a friendship that had lasted decades. "Stop," I said, loud enough to cut through their posturing. "Both of you, stop. This is exactly what Marcus wants. Us fighting each other, destroying alliances, making stupid decisions based on emotion instead of strategy." "What are you saying?" Vincent asked carefully. "I'm saying you're both thinking with your hearts, or your pride, instead of your heads, and that's going to get us all killed." I looked between them. Marcus called to see how we'd react, to see if he could make us fractured, vulnerable, and look at us. We're doing exactly what he wanted. Vaughn's expression shifted to respect. "You're right. We played directly into his hands." "So what do we do?" Vincent asked, and I realized it was the first time he'd actually asked for my input rather than dictating a plan. "We work together, all of us." I moved to stand between them. "Vincent, you have the power and resources. Vaughn, you understand Marcus's psychology because you grew up with him. Isabella, you have connections they don't. And I paused, gathering courage. "I'm the bait. I'm what Marcus wants to use against you. So let's use that." "Absolutely not," Vincent said immediately. "It's too dangerous. Vaughn agreed. More dangerous than running? More dangerous than hiding? More dangerous than letting Marcus pick us off one by one? I challenged. I'm already in danger. At least this way, I have some control over how it plays out. Isabella smiled slowly. The girl has courage and intelligence. Vincent, you chose better than you knew. Vincent looked torn between pride and terror. If anything happens to you, then you'll have Marco and half your security team watching me, plus Vaughn's contacts, plus whatever resources Isabella can provide. I held his gaze. But this is my choice, Vincent. This is me taking agency in my own life. And if you love me the way your aunt says you do, you'll respect that. The admission hung between us. Vincent didn't confirm or deny it, but the way his hand found mine, squeezing gently, told me everything I needed to know. Okay, he said finally. We do this together. But if at any point I think you're in immediate danger, the plan ends. Agreed? Agreed. Vaughn stepped closer, his hand resting on my shoulder. You're sure about this? I'm sure I'm tired of being a victim. Time to become a player. I looked at all three of them. Now let's figure out how to end Marcus Thorne. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt like myself again. Not Vincent's protected asset, not Vaughn's cause to champion, not Marcus's target. Just Vivian Cole, finally taking control of her own story. The plan came together over the next 3 days. Vincent's resources, Vaughn's knowledge of Marcus's patterns, Isabella's connections in Milan, and my willingness to be visible when I'd spent so long being invisible. We were going to draw Marcus out by making him believe his wedge strategy had worked, that Vincent and Vaughn were at odds over me, that their friendship was fracturing. The stage was set for a charity gala at the plaza. Vincent would arrive with me on his arm, publicly claiming me as his. Vaughn would appear separately, making a scene that would convince Marcus's informants that the relationship between the two men was breaking down. Marcus, unable to resist the spectacle of his enemies destroying themselves over a woman, would attend. And once he was there, with witnesses everywhere, we'd spring the trap. But on the morning of the gala, everything changed. I woke in Vincent's penthouse. He'd insisted I stay where his security was strongest, to find him standing at the window, his phone pressed to his ear, his entire body rigid with barely controlled rage. When? He demanded in Italian. A pause. How many men? Another pause. Then, keep her there. I'm coming now. He ended the call and turned to me, his face carved from stone. It's Vaughn's mother. Marcus has taken her. My blood went cold. When? Last night. She was at her home in Connecticut. Marcus's men broke in, subdued her security, and took her. Vincent's jaw worked. He left a message. You for her. A trade. The room tilted. He wants me to surrender myself in exchange for her life? Yes. He's given us until tonight. If you don't show up at his warehouse in Brooklyn by midnight, he'll kill her. Vincent crossed to me, his hands gentle despite the violence radiating from every line of his body. You're not going. She's Vaughn's mother. I know who she is, and I will find another way to get her back. But I am not trading your life for hers. His voice was absolute. Vaughn will understand. Will he? I asked quietly. Will he understand that we let his mother die because protecting me was more important? Vincent's expression cracked. Don't ask me to choose between you and her. Don't make me be that person. You already are that person. You've been that person since the moment you hired me. I stood, wrapping my arms around myself. But I'm not. I can't let an innocent woman die because of me. If you go to Marcus, you die. He won't honor any deal. He'll kill you both and laugh while he does it. Then we don't play by his rules. I met Vincent's eyes. We make him play by ours. The door burst open. Vaughn stood there, his face a mask of controlled terror. Behind him, Marco and 3 other security men waited. Vaughn's eyes found Vincent first, then me. "Tell me you have a plan," he said, his voice rough. "Tell me we're not just giving up on her." "We're not giving up on anyone," I said before Vincent could respond. But Vincent's right about one thing. Marcus won't honor a straight trade, so we changed the game. "How?" Vaughn demanded. I looked at Vincent. "You said Marcus wants to watch you suffer. That hurting me hurts you. But what if I'm not the person who matters most to you anymore?" Understanding dawned in Vincent's eyes. "No, absolutely not." "What are you talking about?" Vaughn asked. "Marcus's entire plan relies on me being Vincent's weakness," I explained. "But what if, publicly, I'm not? What if Vincent and I have a very public falling out? What if I choose you, Vaughn, and Vincent is seen letting me go?" "Marcus won't believe it," Vincent said. "He'll see it as a trick. He'll believe it if it's real." I turned to Vaughn. "If I actually choose you, if we actually leave together, if Vincent actually lets us go?" Vaughn stared at me, something complicated crossing his face. "Are you saying—" "I'm saying I should have chosen you from the beginning. You offered me partnership, respect, freedom, everything Vincent couldn't give me because he's too busy trying to control the entire world." I looked back at Vincent, and my heart broke at the devastation in his eyes. "I'm sorry, Vincent, but I can't be your caged bird anymore. Vivian." His voice cracked on my name. "This is the play," I continued, forcing myself to stay strong. "Tonight at the gala, we make it public. I leave with Vaughn. Marcus sees that his plan worked, that he fractured your friendship and took away the woman you loved. He'll feel victorious, safe. That's when we move on his mother. While he's distracted by his win, Vincent's team extracts her." "And what about you?" Vincent asked quietly. "You think Marcus will just leave you alone once you're with Vaughn?" "He'll underestimate Vaughn. He always has. He sees him as weak, sentimental, torn by family loyalty." I moved to stand beside Vaughn, who took my hand instinctively. "He won't expect Vaughn to be able to protect me. That's his mistake." "It's a good plan," Isabella said from the doorway. None of us had heard her enter. "Marcus's arrogance will be his downfall. He will want to gloat, to savor his victory. That gives us time." "Time for what?" Vaughn asked. "Time for me to call in every favor I have in Milan," Isabella said. "Marcus Thorne has made enemies in Italy. Enemies who would be very pleased to know his attention is divided, his resources stretched thin. Enemies who could move against his operations while he's focused on his personal vendetta." Vincent was silent for a long moment, his gray eyes studying me with an intensity that made my chest ache. "You're serious about this? About choosing him?" "I'm serious about ending Marcus. If that means choosing Vaughn, then yes." I held his gaze. "I'm sorry, Vincent. I know that's not what you wanted to hear." "No," he said quietly. "It's not. But perhaps it's what I needed to hear." He turned to Vaughn. "Take care of her. If anything happens to her because you weren't strong enough or careful enough or ruthless enough—" "I'll protect her with my life," Vaughn interrupted. "You know I will." The 2 men stared at each other, years of friendship and brotherhood passing between them in that look. Then Vincent nodded once, sharply, and turned away. "Make it convincing tonight," he said, his back to us. "Marcus's informants will be everywhere. If they suspect it's an act, my mother dies and the plan fails. So make it real. Make it hurt." He walked out without another word, and I felt something inside me tear. Because part of the plan wasn't an act. Part of it was real. I was choosing Vaughn. In the gala was everything we'd planned. Vincent arrived alone, his expression cold and closed. I came with Vaughn, wearing a dress he'd chosen, emerald green, beautiful but simpler than anything Vincent would have selected. A deliberate statement about the difference between them. The moment we entered, whispers started. Vincent's secretary, on Vaughn Caruso's arm. The implication was clear, scandalous, exactly what we needed. Vincent approached us halfway through the evening, his face a mask of barely controlled fury. The performance began. "Vivian," he said, his voice carrying across the suddenly quiet room. "We need to talk, privately." "Anything you need to say, you can say in front of Vaughn," I replied, lifting my chin. "Very well." Vincent's eyes were chips of ice. "You're making a mistake. He can't protect you the way I can. He can't give you the life you deserve." "The life I deserve?" I let anger bleed into my voice. "You mean the life you decided I should have? The cage you built while calling it protection? I'm done being your prisoner, Vincent. Vaughn sees me as a partner, an equal. That's worth more than all your power and control. You're being naive. Romantic notions about partnership won't keep you alive when Marcus comes for you." "Then I'll die free," I said, and part of me meant it. Better that than spending another day invisible in your shadow. Vincent's face went white. For a moment, I thought he might break, might drop the act and beg me to stay. But he held firm, playing his role perfectly. "Fine," he said coldly. "Go with him. See how long his pretty words last when you're both dead, because he was too weak to do what needed to be done." He looked at Vaughn. "She's yours. I hope you can live with the responsibility." He turned and walked away, and I had to bite my lip to keep from calling him back, because this wasn't entirely an act. This was me actually choosing Vaughn's partnership over Vincent's protection, and watching Vincent walk away hurt more than I'd expected. Vaughn's arm came around my waist, steady and solid. "You okay?" he murmured. "I will be," I said. "Let's go." We left the gala together, making sure Marcus's informants saw us drive away in Vaughn's car, away from Vincent's world, toward an uncertain future. The extraction happened at 2 a.m. Vincent's team moved on the Connecticut house while Marcus was still processing his apparent victory. They found Vaughn's mother unharmed. Marcus had been keeping her alive as leverage and had her in protective custody within an hour. By dawn, Isabella's contacts in Milan had moved against Marcus's Italian operations. Shipments seized, warehouses raided, bank accounts frozen. The coordinated attack crippled his empire while he was distracted. And Vincent, freed from worrying about me, unleashed everything he'd been holding back. Marcus Thorne's organization crumbled under the systematic assault, and the man himself fled the country on a private plane, never to return to New York. It was over. 2 months later, I stood in a kitchen in Vermont, watching snow fall outside the window. The farmhouse Vaughn had found was nothing like Vincent's penthouse. It was old, drafty, with uneven floors and a fireplace that smoked when the wind blew wrong. It was perfect. "Coffee's ready," Vaughn said, wrapping his arms around me from behind. I leaned into his warmth, still marveling at how different this felt from Vincent's possessive control. Vaughn held me because he wanted to, because I wanted him to, not because he was afraid of losing me. "Your mother called," I said. "She wants to know if we're coming for Christmas." After Marcus fled, Vaughn's mother had finally been freed from that family's shadow. She'd moved to Vermont too, buying a small cottage a few miles away. The three of us had dinner together every Sunday, building the normal family life Vaughn had never had. "We'll go," Vaughn said. "She's making her famous lasagna. We can't miss that." My phone buzzed. A text from Vincent. "Heard you're settling in well. Glad you're safe. V." He checked in once a week, never pushing, never asking me to reconsider. Just making sure I was alive and happy. That was his way of loving me now, from a distance without conditions. I texted back, "Very well. Thank you for everything." His response came quickly. "You chose right. He's good for you. Be happy, Vivian." I would be. I was. Vivian. Vaughn turned me in his arms, his dark eyes serious. "There's something I've been wanting to ask you." He dropped to one knee, pulling a simple gold band from his pocket. Nothing like the ostentatious ring Vincent would have chosen. Just a plain circle that meant promise and partnership and forever. "Marry me," Vaughn said. "Not because you need protection or because you're running from something, but because you want to build a life with me. Because we're partners, equals, together." I pulled him to his feet and kissed him, tasting coffee and snow and future. "Yes," I whispered against his lips. "Yes, to all of it." Outside, the snow continued to fall, covering the world in white. A clean slate, a fresh start, a life I'd chosen freely. I'd walked away from Vincent's power and control. I'd chosen Vaughn's partnership and respect. And in doing so, I'd finally found what I'd been searching for all along. Not safety, not protection, freedom, and love, and home.